Hi everyone, I'm MichelleCrutcher. I'm a business coach based in Sydney, Australia. I'm so happy and excited to be on the Prosperity Show, and I just want to give you a little bit of background. We're going to be talking about how to turn your corporate skills and your experience into a thriving coaching business that we help you build around your lifestyle goals and financial goals.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your premium destination for exclusive insights into thriving businesses and also the remarkable individuals behind them. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've got a guest whose journey really epitomizes courage, transformation, and a pursuit of a passion. Now, Michelle, how are you doing today?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. I am doing really well.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I'm really excited for what we're about to embark in, because obviously you are or have become a business coach here in Australia, and you're helping businesses, people to build businesses they've always dreamt of. And that's from turning their skills, experience, and passion into a thriving business that's actually built on their own lifestyle needs. And that's the reason why, Michelle, when you jumped on the call today, I thought we were gonna actually have this conversation with you on the beach or something resort looking, but I think that bonsai tree is the best we could do on short notice.
Yeah, that's sort of, yeah. I should have done a beach background. That's what I should have done.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are watching right now, I just want you to maybe imagine, or maybe you're actually going through this right now, having spent years in a corporate job. Not to dig at a corporate job, because obviously that's how other people get money, but what you then get out of that, depends on who you are as a person. But Michelle here got what she would like to call, much like the movie Groundhog Day. The things just became monotonous and all the same. And obviously nobody likes that kind of sameness. It becomes old too fast. So Michelle does know that feeling all too well. So if you are experiencing that, I think this will be the place to be for the next 45 or so minutes. So Michelle has spent over 25 years in procurement, and also she was mastering negotiation and strategy in the process. So she's actually realized that, hey, there's more to life than climbing that corporate ladder. Because if you have ever seen cartoons where you just keep climbing that ladder and it never seems like you're heading anywhere, that is basically how she started feeling. So in a bold move, she transitioned from the boardroom to the beach, and now she actually starts her days with serene walks by the ocean. And I was actually looking outside. I'm looking at my neighbor's wall right now, so you can only imagine what her mornings look like, and what her office for the day seems to be. And that's a yearning for a lot of us. So she literally transitioned from the boardroom to the beach, and I can't wait to hear her journey and how she's now helping ambitious corporate women unlock their full potential and build a business that's actually aligned to their lifestyle and financial goals. Now, Michelle, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to start talking about. So you had a brilliant career that spanned over 2 decades and 5 years. Tell us a little bit about that career and what it is that was involved in it.
Yeah, so I actually just landed in, it was funny because I have conversations with so many people and they talk about, how hard it is and the journey that they go in their corporate career and all the interviewing and going to different jobs. And I've got to say, I think I've interviewed in all the jobs that I've had across my corporate career. To be honest, I think I interviewed for one of them. So I sort of developed my career through either going on secondments in other departments, or, going and working with a manager that I'd met somewhere, and I'd progressed my career really just from learning on the job to actually getting the skills. And so for me, like, that corporate journey was, when I look back on it, it was so incredibly important, especially now running my own business, to go, hey, those skills that I probably didn't appreciate as much when I was going through my journey, that is just so valuable in business. But yeah, I worked for 25 years in corporate procurement for, some of the largest global organizations, mostly in the finance industry. So I've sat on multi-million-dollar contract negotiations. I've worked on business transformation strategies. And then one of the things that I really loved about my job was we managed a supply contract from end to end, which meant we negotiated the contract. We got involved in the supplier arrangement. So I got to understand what it was like to be from a supplier side. And worked with them on their transformational journey and what it was like to work with our organisation. So it was such a long 25-year career, but it was learning continuously. And it was almost 4 years ago. Actually, it was in the middle of COVID. I had literally just turned 50 years old. So call it a midlife crisis, I don't know. But I decided that it's like, for some reason, I'm actually really, I wouldn't say hate my job, but it just felt so mundane. It felt like the pressure. And I kind of was thinking, like, why is this suddenly feel so wrong? Why does it feel like this is not where I really should be or want to be anymore? And I think in the middle of COVID, particularly in Australia, we were heavily locked down. We couldn't travel. And one of the things that I loved to do was to travel. So when my work got tough, I'd plan another trip, or I'd always have something there. And suddenly when I couldn't travel anymore, it was like, this is it. Like, work became absolutely everything in that time period. It was like, well, what if I could never travel again? What if this was it? This is not fulfilling me. I was, it was just kind of going through the motions. As you said, it was like that Groundhog Day. And I really didn't feel like I was fulfilled enough. And so that's when I decided to just take some time to actually really look at the skills that I have and how can I actually use these in a different way that would serve me, instead of going to another job, which ultimately in procurement, it's a very small industry. So potentially it was just going to another organisation but doing the same job. And I didn't want my boss's job. I'd gone as far in the organisation that I'd wanted to. And I looked at him, and, even the women that were above, and I'm like, that's not going to fulfill me either. So it's like, what can I do to actually re-look at the skills that I have? And lucky in the role that I had, I got exposure right across the organisation. So, across the finance, across the marketing, across everything. And then I decided that, I'm going to put a transition plan in place. I'm going to assess my skills. I'm going to look and see how I can actually use those in a business way. And that's where I kind of landed on. I'd spoken to a few mentors, did some courses in between, and started to build my out. When I wanted to go out of the organisation that I was in and how I was going to do that. So build a transition plan and then just consistently work towards it to where I am now, running a coaching business.
Absolutely, and congratulations. And obviously you chose yourself. So many people just have continued, because if you really look at it, you only had 15 years left, just until some sort of retirement. But, you decided that wouldn't have been the time. But I'm quite happy that at least you managed to do at least that 25-year stint in there. But I want to take us back a little bit, Michelle. As a kid, or when you were growing up, what is the thing that you actually wanted to do? Because I remember talking to my little girl 3 days ago, and she just bluntly told me she wanted to be a witch. So we're going to have to, start saving money for portions and, what do you call those sticks? And the hats, so things of that nature. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I actually wanted to be a tennis player. That was my dream. And then, obviously I was good, but not good enough to follow that as a passion. But I really wanted to make sure that, I love to travel. So I think when I sort of left school, the one thing that I wanted to do was to go, I was on a plane, like, I think a year after I'd finished school and out and traveling, did the travel thing. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So it was like, well, how do I actually make that happen? And then I kind of, I worked in a few jobs, and I guess, I don't know if anything really fit, but the procurement side, I got to work in the travel industry. So I actually negotiated contracts for airlines, I negotiated contracts for hotels. So, that opened up some really good opportunities for me to, to do, to sort of understand that industry. So I guess in a sense, I was learning that kind of thing, but still building up the skills for procurement. But yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know that I think I kind of landed in the procurement industry just, I guess, in like most people, if they were in their career back then, it was by chance you got put in there. Procurement wasn't a huge industry to be in when I sort of started. It was sort of, where now it's quite a large industry to be in. But I guess I started in a bank and then worked my way up, and yeah, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
And thank you so much for that. And you did mention you only sort of interviewed for one sort of job, and the rest have just been, the relationships that you build, the skill set
Yeah.
that you are putting on. So you were just leveling up as you were going, and just utilizing whatever skill set that you have now. At the time that you would have left, maybe you would have had dependents or people that are around you, or people that care about you. What was the conversation like when you said, yeah, this is 50, no more Groundhog Day for me, I am going to go? And
It was to be honest, it was a scary decision. It was, because you do think about, like, it's like, oh, I'm actually leaving the financial security. Like, I was in a really well paid job. And so that was the scary piece for me. It's like, if I walk away, but lucky for me, I'd built up a savings bank. So, I had the opportunity to, like, if this doesn't work, what is the worst case scenario? I have to go back into corporate. That was sort of the way that I looked at it. I was hoping that I would never ever have to do that. But it was always like, I'd had this plan. I'd created my transition plan. I'd created those key milestones that I needed to achieve before I was ready. So when I did hand in my notice, it was still scary to think, my gosh, this is it. I've made the decision and now I have to make it happen. But there are all those things that you think about. And I think people think that when they want to start a business, it's quit your job, go all in, when in actual fact, that job is actually providing you with security. And as long as you have a plan of when you want to go out, you should be okay to transition, knowing that you're going to hit those key milestones. So it's like, I always say to people, don't quit your job unless, it's so bad and it's affecting you mentally and physically. That's a whole different scenario. But if it's just that I'm not happy, but I want to do something else, then make that something else happen and do that in the background. And you can do it. So, a couple of hours a day, or, whatever. It's just dedicate that time to actually do it and do it right. And then make sure that you are set up.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that whole don't quit your day job, it just doesn't appeal. I mean, it just doesn't apply to singing in the shower, right? Because so many people think if they can crack their voice, then they automatically can win a Grammy or something of that nature. So, or an Oscar.
And I think
Yeah.
there's so much on, there's so much on social media, and you see it's like, I did this in 7 days and I created my first million in whatever. And that might be true for that person, but that may not be your case. So, I think you work towards worst case scenario, but plan for best. But that planning is really important.
Absolutely. You see, Michelle, there's a statement that if a horse knew its strength, nobody would be able to tame it.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is all these people that are, looking for something more and things of that nature, if they start looking into their strength and their skill set, they will be able to and have maybe a happier existence or a happier outcome, and do whatever it is that sort of makes them happy. What is stopping people from discovering that by themselves?
So interesting you say that, because, I did ask a question on LinkedIn about a year or so ago, and this is how my transition out program all came to be. There was a recruitment agency had put up a post on LinkedIn, and she was in the procurement space, and she was basically talking about my sort of level where I was in procurement, to saying that level is disappearing. There's not as many opportunities for people above, so that means they're staying. So therefore, the people kind of below, there's not that opportunity for you to move up as quickly as what there probably was before. And then she made the statement, it's like, so you need to be out there networking, otherwise you're limiting your opportunities. And I got on that post and I did a reply and I said, look, 100% I agree. Networking is so incredibly important. It's how I've sort of moved through my career. But it's not the only option. You have amazing skills as a procurement person. If anyone wants to have a conversation with me, I've used them now and running my own coaching business. If anyone wants to have a conversation, jump on. And I did. I got a lot of people reach out and say, hey, Michelle, how did you do it? And I think people sit there and think, I can't do this because, one, my job does pay well. I need that financial security. But then it's like, if it gets so bad, I'll just change organizations. But my question then is, what do you actually really not like about your job? And is changing organizations going to make that any better? So it's great that you want to change jobs, and that might be a better opportunity. For some it is, for some it's not. But it's like, you've got to really understand, if you are so unhappy in your job now, what are those reasons? What are those reasons that are actually, making you unhappy? Is it the culture? Is it your boss? Because you might not click. Is it the actual organization? Because they're things that unless you actually know what's triggering you, going to another job is probably not going to help you have that same. After a while, we all have the excitement of changing jobs and it's all new and it's all that kind of stuff, and it's great for a little while, and then it's like, oh, this is same old, same old. So I think for people, it's that fear of actually, definitely the financial piece, and I 100% agree with that, which is, why I think that transition plan is so important. But I also think it's people need to think differently about how you can actually use your current skill set, the skills that you thought you can use in a job that's, your job title and the job description. Look at it differently. There's different ways to do things. There's different needs for skills. So really deep dive into what skills you have and how you can use them in a different way that actually aligns with, your values, your own purpose, how you want to live your life, and how you want to actually achieve the success that you actually say you want to do. So we all have dreams and ideas and visions of success. It's understanding what I want to do with that. And one of the first questions that I always ask a client, it's the very first question: what does success look like for you? Before you even think about putting any paper down and talking about a business, because if you don't have that vision of what you want your life to look like, it's very hard to build a business. To make sure that you want to have that framework, you want to understand, because even if you're building a coaching business, you could say, hey, and most people want to start their business to have more time, to be able to take the kids to school, to be able to pick those kids up from school, to go to those school events, to take that walk along the beach of lunchtime, or go to the gym in the middle of the day, all of those things that we talk about work-life balance. But if you're not creating your business, or your goals are not heading you in that same direction, then you're not going to get there.
I value that a great amount. See, so what you're saying there is people should really be self-aware, because self-awareness now puts you in the driver's seat. Am I the right person to, soldier through with this, or to be the right person? Because it takes a lot of work to be able to sit down, look at your values, and then take that ownership and point back at yourself and say, you know what, now I'm in charge of me having a burger at 3 p.m.?
It also means too that you are in charge of your career. So I think if you do some deep work and understand what are the skills that I have, how can I use them differently, and even if you prepare, it means that if someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, your job's going, your job's going to be redundant," and it's like, crap. Now I suddenly have to think about either rushing to try and get a job or rushing to but when you are now in the front seat, you've done your skills assessment, you have an idea of how you can use them, you've put your plan in place. So that plan, whether you're planning on leaving corporate or whatever, it just puts you at the front foot. It allows you to be able to not have to make those rushed decisions. You can then sort of sit back and go, right, I know exactly what I want to do and what I can actually do to create my alignment in there. So I'm not reliant now on an organization. What if it takes me 6 months to get a job? What if I can't get a job in the industry that I'm qualified in? So it kind of takes you from being that sort of reactive to being very proactive about your career.
Absolutely. And I think so many people might just be very afraid, because if they knew how, they would, have gotten around and done it. But you've got a transition out 12-week group coaching program, and that has obviously gained attention with a lot of people, especially like you mentioned, in Melbourne, where we were so locked down, we actually, didn't know whether we were just gonna go back to real life or anything. Could you maybe share what this entails and what people can expect from taking this program with you?
Yeah, so we basically work with a client for 12 weeks, and we go through the initial phases of like taking your ideas and looking at your skills. We deep dive into the skills that you have, and then look at options of how we can actually use them in a coaching, consulting, or an online education business. We work through on actually nailing down what is your niche, and how can we actually define who your ideal client is, so that you know exactly what type of coaching program to create. And then because we've got you to actually create the profile of what your successful life looks like, we've got that mapped out. Now we can create a coaching program that fits with that. So if you're saying you want more time, you want more freedom, then potentially a group coaching program would be. So we work with you to actually go from what are your clients' needs, what's the transformation your client's looking for, let's map out those milestones. So by the end of that module, you'll have your coaching program. Then we work with them to actually, what are the most effective methods for what you're coaching on to actually start attracting clients. So we've got a couple of methods that we use in there. And then we'll work with you to set up your business systems. So it's great to have this coaching business, but then what are the systems that we need to do to make sure those processes are as automated as we possibly can make them, so that your business can run smoothly and you're not so focused on working in your business. You can then become the CEO. So we work with you to actually, what are the things you need to look at to actually start managing your business. So it's kind of the end-to-end process for the 90 days. So by the end of it, you'll have a coaching program with mapped out how you'll actually start to get paying clients, and you should be on those 10K month consistency.
Absolutely. That's pretty cool. Now, obviously, somebody will be looking at maybe their paycheck or maybe their diploma or degrees, certificates on the wall, and thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I leave this, I worked far too hard to get to where I am right now. And if I start working by myself, it might just not pan out. Do you have maybe an example, obviously without mentioning names or identifying things, that you can give us a case study of somebody who went through this transition program and they actually came out on the other side? Here, we're just looking, does this actually work on humans?
Yeah, so we've got clients who have actually come to us with literally, and I want out of my job. Absolutely hate my job, but I don't know what I can actually use my skills with. And that's why we actually spend the time with them to go, okay, let's look at the skills you have. Let's map out the life you want to live. So I've got clients who've literally gone from having no idea literally no idea how it could actually work in a coaching business, thinking that coaching, the only way that they could operate is one-on-one, to work with them to go, hey, let's create, because of how you want your successful life to be, or your dream lifestyle and your financial goals, let's take that one-to-one coaching program and let's turn it into a group coaching program. Now, as you're starting, you're only going to have your one-to-one clients come in anyway. So essentially, you're creating this group coaching program ready for when you've got multiple clients coming through. So people kind of go, oh, I thought I had to start one-to-one, and now I'm actually got this group program. We're all set up in the background. It's onboarded and we're doing, clients can come in easily. We're setting up all those processes. And now it's like they've gone from, thinking they had to work the 8 clients a day and whatever to meet their financial needs, to actually saying, hey, I can work with 20 clients within a few hours a week.
Absolutely. And I think so many people, it's just, you don't know what you don't know, you know what I mean? And it's
100%.
when you get exposed to things like this, it might just work out. So when people are working with you, are they just working with you one-on-one, or do they also correspond with other people sharing ideas in somewhat of a
For this particular program, because it is for corporate people, I do have people that will want to work in a group, but I am also very conscious that some people want to maintain their privacy. So we do take a very few group of clients and work with them one-on-one. It's exactly the same program. We just do it in a one-to-one format, week by week.
Absolutely. I mean, somebody might argue and say, in your corporate days, you actually mastered negotiation and strategy. So somebody will be looking and saying, I wouldn't know how to start talking to suppliers or people so that I can get the best prices, or talk to clients and things of that nature. What sort of reassurance would you give to people, especially when they think maybe it only works for people like yourself? I'm just an accountant. How am I going to know how to speak to people?
Yeah, it's and we teach them sales techniques, we teach them marketing techniques. It is actually just looking at the skills that you have. And you think about, like, coaching is, obviously taking the skills you have and teaching someone a method, a framework, a system to actually solve a problem that client has. So essentially the program that the way that you set up your business, it doesn't matter if you're in procurement, it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, it doesn't matter if you want to be a sales coach. The process is the same. Your content will be different because you're targeting your own niche. But in essence, the way that you can attract those clients, it's the same. It's the same. So the program works across niches. It's just understanding essentially what skills you have and how you can actually use them.
Absolutely. You see, Michelle, in the corporate world, rewards come in the form of maybe a company credit card, perks, all expenses paid, trips, and things of that nature. But I don't think that happens when you're sort of starting your business, and it just really puts you back to, you become the janitor, you become the bookkeeper, you start doing all these sort of jobs that you wouldn't have had to do in that corporate life. Has your definition of success changed since you started running your business? Because for me, just waking up one day, and if I'm wearing a shirt with cufflinks and I'm able to have both cufflinks on at the same time before clients start calling, and it takes me for the whole day, that's a success. So I don't know, maybe your definition has
Well, I think you've just nailed it. Everyone has a different vision of success, right? Now, whether it's on a daily basis and just doing your cufflinks, I would hope someone's got a little bit more than that. But everyone has a vision of what their success like. So when I started my business, all I ever wanted to do was to replace my corporate income. That's all. And then work one day less. But once you kind of get in, you can realize that the opportunities, are endless, really. You can do as much or as little as you want. But I think you have to understand that at the start, it is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Running your business is actually hard, but it's harder if you don't have someone that can guide you, someone that can work through challenges with you, because there is a lot that comes up. And whilst everyone will have different skills that they've been using, business is different. Like even, I wrote a post the other day on leadership skills in business as in corporate, right? So if you're leading your own business, you create the strategy. You're not following a strategy of an organization. So whilst they're the same skills, they are used in different ways. You just have to find the right coach, the right mentor for how you're going to achieve the goals that you want to do. Someone that can guide you, someone that can hopefully prevent you from making some of the big mistakes that others have made along the way.
Absolutely. If somebody's just listening to this and really contemplating but doesn't quite know what would be the first thing that they can do, how can they get a hold of you to maybe ask questions or read more, or just really strengthen their decision to make this transition?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn under MichelleCrutcher, and also MichelleCrutcher Coaching or Business Coaching is my LinkedIn business. I'm also on Instagram under MichelleCrutcher Coaching, and my website, MichelleCrutcher.com. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually find their way. Now, when we started this call, Michelle, you mentioned to me that you have always wanted to be a tennis player. But I found out somewhere that you actually were a tennis coach at USA summer camp. Isn't that like the USA Open of, amateur tennis right there?
Yeah, I should say I was a professional coach in the US. No. It was a whole bunch of 7 to 12-year-old girls. But yeah. Yeah, it was actually, to be honest, it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I absolutely loved it. Well, the pay was not great, but yeah, it was so much fun. And yeah, tennis is something that I've played since, I don't know, really, really young. Obviously wasn't good enough to do it professionally, but yeah, it's a love of mine.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, Serena Williams better watch out. I think she should.
I think she's got absolutely nothing to worry about.
Well, we can negotiate our way to
100%.
To whatever competitions that are there. But
yeah,
and also, we've just met the tennis aspiring tennis player there. But at 25, that's when you started this journey, and obviously nobody told you what it was going to look like, and nobody sort of gave you advice that you too can maybe get started on your own gig and things of that nature. But if you could maybe go back 25 years or now a little bit more to that Michelle who was starting off in the corporate ladder, who was climbing every ladder there was, every staircase there was, what would you tell her right now while she's busy fumbling through her papers, going to the next board meeting in the boardroom, and you just walk past her in the corridor, and you just happen to have a chat with her?
I would honestly say choose work that you love. Because I think that, I look in what I'm doing now, and I love what I'm doing now. I get to talk to people every day. I get to help people start their own business. I get to work with people on a journey. And I do really love it. Would this have been something that I thought about 25 years ago? No, because I don't think coaching was really, known sort of then, or certainly not in Australia. But I would definitely say do something that you love, because it doesn't, honestly, even on the hardest days in my business, I feel like I can cope way better than my hardest day in corporate, where you would want to walk out and just burst into tears or have a mental breakdown. Like, I think if you find something that you love and you're passionate about it and it excites you, and I think that's one of the greatest things is, like, if you can wake up, like that feeling for me on a Sunday, I think of the Sunday night feeling when I was in court was like, oh my God, it's Sunday at 3:00. I start to feel this anxiety or this sickness of the pit of my stomach, thinking, oh my God, I've got to go back to that job again. Whereas Sunday night here is just, it's total chill. Like it's a totally different thing. So I think if your corporate job is not fulfilling you, and not everyone, I'm not saying that all corporate jobs are bad and that everyone should get out and start that. No, I'm not saying that at all. Some people just suit a corporate lifestyle and that's the avenue that they choose. But if you're constantly going through a job and it's just not fulfilling you, I wish I had started my business years ago. Years ago. One, I'd be way more ahead in my business than, what you are now. But I think that if you're doing something you love and it excites you and you making a difference in someone's life is just, it's one of the best feelings to see someone go from sort of, working through those problems, working through those challenges that they may have in their business, because there's nothing really that you can't figure out. There's always a resource, and we are so lucky. Like, we can Google it, we can ask ChatGPT. Like, there's really nothing, in our lives that we sort of have to really struggle with, or So there's nothing. Even if you start your business and think, oh, I don't think I can do it, or whatever. There's nothing that, I always think that what's the worst, and that's what made me decide to start my business. What is the worst thing that can happen if I do this? And it's like, but then what if it is actually a success? Worst case scenario, I go back and do what I was doing in my corporate job. Best case scenario, this actually works. I love it and it's doing well financially.
Absolutely. I like that because everything is figure outable, and
Yeah.
once you figure it out, you're learning, and that's yet
Yeah.
another skill set.
Exactly.
As
Exactly.
you go, growing up, we would play video games, because every level has its own devil, but with every star that you eat along the way, your character gets bigger. Your character gets bigger, and then it'll be able to now slay those dragons. And I think that's what a lot of people
Yeah.
should be doing, because when you're working on your own, every skill set is obviously yet another arrow in your quiver. But
Yeah.
when you're working for somebody else, it's the congratulations and the accolades usually go to somebody else that
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the project to start.
100%. 100%. Yes. Personal experience.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Michelle, there's something that I just figured out here. You indulge me if you want to or not, but now it makes sense why you wanted to be a tennis player.
Why is that?
Because you know what the first point of tennis is?
Love.
There you go. I think
I like it. I
yeah,
like it.
I think that's where the passion, the love, and everything else that
Yeah, so
along with
true.
it.
It's so true.
Great stuff. But what sort of legacy are you hoping to leave with this? I mean, obviously, you're just going to let people leave their jobs and then, they're going to be looking at you thinking, oh, I could have been further by now. Oh, look at me. I'm sitting next to Elon Musk. I don't know what.
My legacy, that's a good question. Like, I think honestly, I just want to be known as the person who, I took a chance, I had a go, and it worked. And I think if I hadn't have done that, I would never have known. It would always been that, what if? So I think you can, and there's so many people that sit there and go, oh, I should really get out, but and I see them stuck in the job. Like the people that I've got friends and stuff that sit there and they've been complaining about their job for like years and they're still doing the same. It's like, it's in your hands. So I think as my legacy, I would just, I want people to know that, she was willing to help. She was, she did a good job. She was reliable. She loved working with clients. She supports her clients. Anyone that comes into our world, we want to be able to support you and your business, and we give them opportunities to showcase, to market their business, to learn through our community and the communities that we've created. That would be, she loved life.
Absolutely. Now, Michelle, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience and skill set and passion is now affording you the lifestyle that you're living right now. And it's just proof positive that, hey, if you just back yourself with, who you've become, the rest will make sense when you're there. It's only that leap that a lot of us keep
Yep.
holding on to something, or keep holding on to a world that no longer exists. And did sort of hint on the advent of technology and artificial intelligence. It's just going to really obliterate a few more jobs if the pandemic didn't do that for.
Yeah, and that's why I say you need to be at the forefront of your career, because someone's going to eventually make that decision for you.
Absolutely. Now, as we conclude this enlightening conversation, I just invite you, as the viewer or the listener, just reflect on Michelle's journey and maybe consider how her insights may actually be applicable to your own life. And if you found today's episode valuable, please share it with somebody who could benefit from Michelle's story. There's a lot of people that could literally turn their skills, experience, and passion into a thriving business that's literally built around their lifestyle needs. All right. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring content like this. And I encourage you to join us on the next episode, where we're going to be exploring ideas to cultivate happier existence. Until next time, I want you to remember one thing: the path to prosperity begins with a single courageous step.
Yeah.
Take yours today. Bye for now.